Hey, Mike, what do Kelly Slater and PT have in common?
I don't know. They're both world champs?
Nope, they both own Endless Summer box set.
Oh my God, rad. You guys, you can get it too. The link's in the show notes. Hey everybody, welcome to the QuiverCast, where we chat with surfers from all around the world, from all walks of life, and we get their story. Find us at www.thequivercast.com. I am Mike, your host. Let's get into the show. Hello, everybody. This is Mike here with the QuiverCast, and our special guest, who I'm super stoked to have on, is Tim Curran. How are you doing, Tim?
Very good. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, I totally appreciate this. I'm pretty stoked. Well, let's start off with you today. You're living a pretty busy life. You're a musician. Do you have a company also, like a construction company?
Yeah, I have a construction company, Deadwood
Wow.
Construction. I'm
Okay.
co-owner with the partner.
Obviously, you still serve, right?
Yes. I have still surf, and thankfully I'm still have some sponsors that are helping me out, Salt Life, Channel Islands, and I'm milking the pro surf thing as long as I can.
So why not? Well, actually, let's start there, like way back. Do you remember catching your first wave?
I don't remember catching my first wave, but I clearly remember like it was yesterday, my first wave that was open face, green blue water. I remember
Yeah.
that.
Where was it at?
We were camping at San Onofre, and so I was down way down the south part of the beach, and I remember we were there with a couple of my parents' friends. We woke up one morning and it was just sheet glass, and the waves were probably only like, waist to chest high, but it was just, there wasn't like a bump in the water. And I remember for some reason not having a leash, and I don't know why, because we paddled to the outside, and I remember I caught this wave, paddle, got into it, and I turned, and it felt like I went like 500 yards in my mind. And in my mind, I was on this perfectly glassy wave and kind of in the pocket, and it just seemed like it just stood still in time. Like I feel like right now I could remember it perfectly. And,
Wow.
I think that wave was the wave that got me hooked on surfing for life.
Really? How old are you?
I was 7.
Wow, young. That basically turned your whole life around, because today you're still doing the same thing, really.
Yeah. Riding a wave, you get the same exact feeling on a good one as I did.
Yeah.
I did then. So it's a beautiful sport, and I'm very thankful to be a part of it and have the opportunity to surf.
Is your family surfers?
My dad and his brothers, few of his brothers surf. My dad was addicted to surfing. So
Okay.
we lived in Oxnard, and then we moved to Temecula. My dad, owner builder, built a house down in Temecula, but we would drive to the beach like almost every weekend. We go like
Wow.
Saturday, come back home, and then go Sunday. And that's a solid hour drive, and so I think he could only take it down there so long, and then we moved to Silver right after that.
So were you guys surfing Orange County, or were you surfing like Oceanside? Where were you surfing? Or do you remember?
I remember, Warm Waters was our favorite spot to go to because the water was warm, obviously, and like Cardiff and Oceanside.
So that was your first early experience. Do you remember getting like paddling out when it's kind of bigger, or were you just like a little grom? And
I remember one time we got down to the beach, and we're at Tamarack, and it was kind of big. Looking, always every spot you go to, if you're looking down at it, it always seems to look a lot bigger because you see every part of the wave. We pulled up, and right next to this other dad and son, and I don't know if the son was my age or a little, but he was out there, and I was just like, wait, what? If he's out there, I'm out there. And so I suited up and paddled out with my dad. I remember getting to the outside. I was like, I'm going in. It's too big. Tried to I guess that's the early competitiveness of me coming out and surfing.
Do you remember some of the local guys that were there? Was Taylor living there at the time, or like?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay,
it was
so
um
long ago.
so long ago. Who was
Okay,
down there? But
so Carlsbad and well, Oceanside gets a little bit kind of heavier, but then you guys finally moved to Oxnard, and that's a whole nother world, right? Especially when the water's colder and
yeah, we moved there, and I remember, all these memories. I'm like, was it the actual first time that I walked down on the beach, or was it not sure? But I just remember walking
yeah.
down there from what I thought, and it was like Santa Anas and huge barrels, and going, wait, what is this?
Oh wow,
It's so scary. And then obviously we moved to there when I was 7, and
yeah.
we were like the shore break reform masters for many years, and it was pretty cool at the very south end. The jetty kind of jogs out to the
Uh
north,
huh.
and it kind of protects. There's like a little tiny right reform there, and so we're all, even if it was big, we were able to kind of find a little reform off the ship.
Who's the we? Is it you and your brother? Or?
It was me and my brother, and then I had my friend Jason McAuliffe, and then Aaron Fredette, who's still
Okay.
a surfer, lives in Hawaii, and then Skylar, and there's a couple other kids. We had a little crew, so it was nice. There was about 5 of us that we'd all surf together.
And how'd you meet these guys? Like local, lived on the
Yeah,
street or
lived
what?
in Grand. Yeah, Jason lived directly behind me, and then Aaron lived a couple streets down, and then our other friends lived at like the north end near Pepe's. But that beach is only 1 mile long, so
Yeah, yeah.
back in the day, it's like all of the parents. There was like they're just like, all right, see you at dark, and we get to
Wow.
go wherever we wanted, which was nice.
Now, was it like heavy localism back then, or was it changing at this point?
It was changing, but obviously it was still bad. I mean, I grew up seeing fights and people in the water yelling, and my dad got kind of hassled, but him and my uncle Tom are, they're not small guys and they could hold their
Yeah.
own. So it was more like people yapping, and they
Uh,
never got into it. It was just like it was a little rough growing up, but
okay.
everyone was very supportive of me, which is like later, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So things changed once you guys made the in the lineup. They you were recognized.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
all the older locals seeing us surfing the whitewash since the time we were 7, it's like
Right.
they all knew I mean, that's as young as you could be, you
Yeah,
know.
totally. Did you ever get yourself in any like I mean, Oxnard can get pretty heavy actually. So did you ever get into or Silver Strand heavy situations where it was a little bigger than you thought or you
Um,
know?
I mean, I've got pounded out there and worked, but I haven't. I think the place that I've gotten in the most, where I was like, wow, I'm really can get worked, is Oxnard Shores. Seems
Oh,
like
okay.
there's a lot more water moving, and I feel like Strand, when it gets too big, it will break out the back and whitewash and kind of do roll-ins. Where
Yes.
Oxford Shores is more of like it could
Top to
hold
bottom.
like 20 feet, or face waves
Oh,
and be top to bottom.
wow.
So
Gnarly. Okay. So at what point did you catch the contest bug?
when I was 11 or 12, there was a little local contest at Rivermouth. And no, I think the
Mm,
first one I ever did was actually at Oxnard Shores. And it was in the
okay.
summer, obviously, and the waves weren't that big. And all of our friends did it that were from Strand and Oxnard Shores. And then it was pretty cool because I remember meeting some of the good surfers from Ventura. Alex Little and his sister were there, and I don't think Dan Malloy was at that one, but that was the first time that I was like, wait, there's other kids out there and older kids that are like really good. Yeah, and I think I placed third in that event. And so getting a trophy my first event was pretty cool. I was like, wait, what? You know,
Yeah.
it's so cool because my dad was such a huge surf fan from the time I was 5, 7 on. We were watching, Pipeline Masters, the one Joey Baran one, and then all the Five Summer Stories and all these movies. So there was just it was in my blood since I was as far back as I could remember.
Wow. You get this, let's say you make the final
Mhm.
at your first contest,
Yeah.
and you're seeing other kids. Are you feeling competitive? Are you
Oh yeah.
feeling like camaraderie with these guys? Like, what was the feeling?
Competitive. I
Okay,
mean, wanting, my friends to do good, but I wanted to beat them.
right.
And then I think there was maybe another event that summer too at Rivermouth. And then
Uh-huh.
that's when I think maybe Dan Malloy was there and Vaughn and a couple of the Ojai kids were there. And that's when it really was like opened up. There's a lot of kids that are really good at a young age around Ventura Oxnard.
Wow. Were you guys pushing each other, or was that pushing your? Were you pushing your level because you wanted to really beat these guys?
Yeah, from the moment I was hanging out, we were surfing reforms to our contests, very competitive, but in a good way, I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always say like if it wasn't for Aaron Fredette and Dan Malloy, or I wouldn't have gotten to where I got to without being so competitive with them and staying such good friends with them. Like you want them to do good, but you just want to maybe beat them by one spot.
So, did you guys have a friendship where you guys would hang out, not just at contests, or was it like just recognize them at contests first, and then
Recognize him at contests until we could drive. And even
really?
before we could drive, I remember getting rides to Dan Malloy's house, and that's where I met Keith and Chris and those guys. Once we were in like 14, 15, those guys were already in some movies, and I think they were in Momentum One or Momentum Two.
Wow.
And so then that's when that was like the next progression is going to the Malloy's house and then like hearing Kelly Slater's going to stop by. And you're like, wait,
What?
I've watched, Black and White 7 million times, and Kelly
Right.
Slater will show up in Ventura at the Malloy's house, and so
Wow.
kind of just like for me, it was just dreaming about it since I was a little kid. Once I got third in my first contest, I was like, okay, I want to try to do this and maybe be a pro one day. And then it's like pushed into all these local pros, the best in the world, are right down the street, you
Right.
know. And so it was pretty cool. The Keith is like an older brother to me.
Hmm.
Dan and I were great friends growing up, and then Keith was, had a car. Then once we started traveling, he was my chaperone basically for all the years before I could rent my own car.
When you're progressing at a contest, at what point did you realize, this could be something? I know you said you wanted to be a pro, but was there a point where it's like, yeah, I got this?
Yeah, I think there was a time that obviously so 13, I got my first sponsor, which was Piping Hot. I think I got a wetsuit from, and then
Rad.
China-based Surf and Taco down at Ventura Rivermouth. They gave me free burritos, and I was like, "Oh no way, I'm sponsored!" And
Yeah.
then Casey McChrystal, he shaped me my first board, and Casey lived 1, 2 streets over from us, and so being able to get a free board at like I don't even know, like 13, 14.
Yeah. It's how
Like,
rad.
this is crazy and so cool and so exciting. And then I'm like, I just want to surf so good for Casey because he gave me this board, you know?
Okay.
And then from there it went to, it was when we used to have the PSAAs. So we'd watch
Yes.
them
Yes.
on TV, and I was doing the NSSAs. I didn't do that good. I think I made nationals or something, but I just never was that good in the NSSAs because all the kids from down south would kick my butt every time and around here. And I was like, man, but I just, for some reason, I wanted to enter a PSAA when I was like, I think 15. And
Wow.
I did one and I did bad. I think I lost my first heat. I believe it was at Salt Creek. It
Okay.
was a pro-am, and I remember seeing all the pros and Bud Llamas, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Now I get to see all these people that I don't know in person and watch them surf.
Yeah.
And then I just turned 16 in August, and there was a contest at C Street, and I think it was the last one of the year, and I got in it, and somehow I just started making heats. Although the waves were knee to waist high, tiny, and I probably weighed 100 pounds.
Right.
So I just, it was just like 10 turns to the beach and I got a couple good waves, ended up getting third. And then that just like catapulted my surf career sponsorship. I got sponsored by Billabong Reef or Net. Like within like a week or two of that event, I was like getting paid money to like buy my car from the winnings from that event, and then sponsorship money. I was able to buy a little Subaru, and so I was like,
Rad.
I like this. I like
Yeah.
the feeling.
Now, in the household, in the family, your dad's stoked, or what's he thinking? Are you guys having a conversation?
They knew it was my passion so bad that they would ground me from like Monday to Thursday from surfing because I was so obsessed with it. I didn't want to do chores. I didn't want to do homework. All I want to do is surf. And they're just like, no, you can't. And so I wasn't able to surf. I'd have to do chores, and all my friends would be surfing Monday through Thursday.
Oh,
And then Friday to Sunday, I'm like, I'm gonna make up all that time in the water. And I
wow.
did, and so I think they're just like, you're crazy, calm down, it's not all working quite yet.
Right. But they allowed you to get
They
in at 15.
supported. Yeah, I mean, they obviously, drove me to, and my brother Josh, he's 2 years younger, all the NSSAs, and I don't even know how they did it back in the day. Like, we're in hotels and we were just all over from San Diego to Santa Cruz, and we're definitely on the NSSA tour. So, but my parents are
What?
very supportive all the way.
Okay. Was that fun? The tour, the going up and down the coast?
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Although I wasn't doing good in the NSSA events, I still liked, looking back for me, it was very exciting. I mean, there was, kid Billy Oswald from like Huntington Beach or that area. And then, just like there's all these surfers. Jeremy Somerville was in my division, and they were just so much better than me. And I was like, wow, I'm not even close to as good as these guys. But seeing it makes you want to practice. So when you come back that next month, you hopefully are better. So
Once you started surfing the PSAA, did you stop NSA or were you doing both of them? Kind of.
I was doing both, but then I kind
Wow.
of, once I started doing a lot more PSAAs, I kind of like lost a little interest in the NSSAs because I was like, well, I think when I was 17, I remember, so that next year, 16, maybe I did a couple when I was 16. I didn't do that good. Maybe made a couple heats, but when I was 17, I did them. And I remember making like the quarters, the semis. I had a pretty good run. And I remember Ian Carnes came up to me and he was like, hey, if you go to Brazil, like you might qualify for the world tour. And I was like, I'm like, whoa, that's cool. But I wasn't ready yet. And I'm like, oh no, if it's fine next year, 18, go for it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be on the world tour by the time I was 18, because Kelly won his first world title at like 19 or something.
Uh-huh.
And I got my butt kicked for the next 3 years. I went from
Wow.
almost qualifying 17 to not making it on until I was about 21. So it got a lot harder quick.
Why do you think that happened?
I think it went from like you could qualify in the US, and then it changed where you kind of had to go on the WQS and there was a lot more contests within like a year or two. Then you go around the world and you see how many good surfers there are in the world that aren't on tour yet. And then you're like, okay, this is going to be tougher than I thought.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you didn't quit. You kept going.
No, I didn't quit. I mean, I was determined to get on the world tour. If it took
You
me 10
were.
years or 20 years, I was going to try to do it.
So you had goals and you were not letting go.
Yeah, no, I was not. Nothing was going to stop me.
Going backwards a little bit, the PSAA, you did so well. Was the judging different than NSSA? Was your surfing
No,
more?
I just think I don't know. Here's what I think maybe. I think that the caliber of surfing was obviously another level, which when I was there at those events, I just wanted to, it's like you almost like fake yourself out to go
Wow.
for
Yeah.
I mean, I remember going for airs and contests and all that, where NSSAs, I feel like I was just like, I don't know, I'm not
Conservative, maybe?
conservative, and just it was almost like when I was doing the pro contest when I was young, there was pressure on the NSSAs, but in the pro contest, there was no pressure because I'm like, no one expects me to do good in these contests. I'm going to go as big as I can. And
Yeah.
if I land something, I might get a good score, and I would. And then I'd go back to NSSAs and overthink everything, and I couldn't make heats. I was like, what am I doing?
So you're known for your airs. At what point did that become like a major part of your surfing?
Um, Obviously it started with watching, all of the guys in the movies and looking back to the guys that I really like. There was one surfer at Silver Strand. His name was Dougal. I don't even know where he is now, but he did the most amazing airs when I was 12 years old. And we just sit and watch. We'd see him run out, and we just all run to the beach and watch him do airs. And then
Wow.
it went from in the movies, obviously, like Christian Fletcher, Matt Archibald. I was just like, those guys are legends,
Of
just
course.
going huge. And so I think I did my first air that I didn't make it around 12 off a back. Like I went to do a top turn and the backwash hit the wave and I went flying. And I just remember going, that was the best feeling in the world. And so from then on, I was trying little bunny hops and whatnot. And then it just slowly progressed from there.
Were you changing your equipment around also? You're kind of growing up, so your boards are changing, your body's changing.
Yeah, obviously my dad shaped me. He shaped me a board, and then when we went to McChrystal's, it was like the next level of obviously
Yes.
craftsmanship and then design. And and Casey he shaped me a lot of boards at an early age, trying to figure out what worked best for me.
Uh-huh.
Well, I remember having a wide tail, then a narrow tail, and then kind of working that out. And then while I was obviously trying to do airs and reverses and 360s and all that stuff.
Were you actually going in the shaping room and telling them, let's try this? Or you just
No, it was all him. I remember him
okay.
just talking to us. He'd even go down to the beach and watch us surf. And then, a couple months later, he's like, okay, I made you this board. I think this is going to work good. Like, all right, sweet. That was pretty cool.
Right. So you were on him riding those boards for like 3+ years?
Well, I rode McChrystal's till I was, I think, 25-ish.
Oh, you were that long on there. Okay.
I did get sponsored till 25 or 20. I felt like, oh no, it was, yeah, 23, 25. It was when
Okay.
I when I think signed with Hurley is
Okay.
when it was almost like a revamp of everything. And the only reason I left, it was just getting harder and harder for Casey to provide me with boards. And there was a point where I was going to have to buy my boards, and then
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
sell them. And then, when you're getting 20 boards a year, I was just like, and then I was like, hey, we'll give you 20 boards and you don't have to. It was just like, oh, shoot. So,
Yeah.
and I think it was kind of like part of trying to reinvent myself. I'd already been on the tour for a while, wasn't doing that good. Hurley gave me a shot, and when I didn't have a sponsor and I was on the world tour. And so it was just kind of I don't know. I talked to Rick DeVoe, my manager, and he was just like, I just think you should do this. I think it'd be good, and just revamp your whole career. And it was the right thing to do at the time.
But at this point also, you were on the tour initially, right? How long did it take you to get on the tour? A couple
It
of
took
years?
me 3 years. Like, I don't think I made the tour till I was 21. And then
Okay.
first year on the tour, I had a bad year. I remember I had to requalify on the WQS. I think
Yeah.
I finished like 38th or 34th or something.
Okay.
And then the next year, so my second year on tour, that's the year I finished 6th in the world.
Right. Yeah.
That was really fun. And then the next year, I had a horrible year. So I'm very hot and cold in life. If my golf is hot and cold and bad, it's horrible. What's good, it's all right. And that's my surfing career.
Did it have to do with the waves, you think? And what wave suited you more? The QS versus the CT?
No, I think the CT was good. I think, having pipe and Tavarua. The hardest part for me on tour every year was starting at Kira and Bells because it's
Okay.
really hard to do good out there as a backsider.
Super.
The
Yeah.
frontsiders at those spots are just, it was just hard for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. Even
But
though they're really good waves, but
yeah, they're really good waves and I love surfing them. But I always started off with like a 33rd, 33rd, or a 33rd and a 17th. So
yeah.
you're starting out the year coming from behind. And
Yes.
then that's another thing is, so when you start off bad, then you're competing against the top guys.
Yes.
They put the
Low
best,
seed, high seed.
the lower seeds. And so
Yeah.
it's like, it was a grind.
Who was top seed at that time? Kelly and some of those guys?
Well,
Who were
the
you?
year I got sixth, Kelly was off
Yeah,
on the
he took that was
tour.
his retirement year.
Yeah, he took that year off. And then, Aki I think Aki won that year that I got sixth.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
it was for the first part, it was like, Keith Malloy was on there with me and, Shane Dorian, Ross Williams, all the guys that I was like, these are, guys I really looked up to. And they were on tour. And then they slowly, like Rob dropped off. And then the
Mm.
next Shane dropped off. And I was only on it for, I think, 4 or 5 years while I was double qualifying. I had that one good year, but the rest of the other years I was double qualifying. And that's a whole nother long story. But I was on the world tour and I quit halfway through the year. People have known in other interviews, but I never knew it, but I have celiac. So I'm allergic to wheat and soy. And I didn't know it until I was 28. And it got so bad that I was having panic attacks and I thought I had cancer. And I was on my way to Reunion Island and I was on the plane and I was like having a panic attack. I felt sick and I was like, I need to get off this plane. And I remember the captain came on and he said, hey, it's Friday in New York. We're going to be on the tarmac for like an hour. And that just caused me to felt like I had a heart attack and I just passed out and passed out and then fell asleep. And then I remember waking up in the air and I'm like, I'm done. And I landed in Paris and I called my wife and I'm like, hey, I'm quitting. I'm too sick. I don't know what's going on. And so that being said, I was really sick to quit the world tour, which I dreamt about being on, and going to Reunion Island, also being a left.
Yeah.
It's like so. Yeah, it was a bummer. I'm thankful I figured it out within a year, but I was so shattered from how sick I was all those years. I had panic attacks on planes because being locked in your seat, not knowing if I was going to be in the
Yeah.
bathroom, all that stuff was a nightmare.
Totally makes sense. But you were able to come to a conclusion of why you
Within a
were
year,
feeling that
yeah,
way.
my brother-in-law just was like, "Hey, another friend had his gallbladder removed, but found out he had celiacs, and it changed his life." And I found out what it was, went off it, and
Cool.
within a year, yeah, I was like 100%.
So
But
it's kind
not.
of a blessing.
It was a blessing, yeah, it was a
Yeah.
blessing. And then, thankfully, obviously, Bob Hurley, Paul Gomez were so graceful and all that, just going, hey, we just want you to get healthy. We'll keep you sponsored, rode through it. And then I kind of went into just making films with Taylor Steele and traveling and
Yeah.
doing the photo movie
Yeah.
career.
Did you like that part?
I love that. I love that. I feel like there was just, you could put so much of your energy, just like in contests, into a film or a part. And, then you get to go see it, a year later and you like constantly trying to push yourself to have the best part you've ever had, surf the best you've ever,
Yeah.
could. And
Yeah.
so it was my competitiveness was able to come out in those versus
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you go in the editing room with Taylor and kind of pick your waves or maybe your song or anything like that?
I think I got to pick my songs on a
Cool.
few. I think the last year that I was on tour, or the last 2 years, is when I kind of started playing music and putting some music out. And I was kind of, I'd go and do a contest and then play a show. And then once I was doing the surf film, then I'd, Taylor Steele would be like, hey, could you write a song for this part? And so I'd write a song and have my friends edit it and make it fit the vibe of the film. And yeah, so that was really fun time as well.
Surfing wise and being on the movies, was that catapulting your popularity amongst everyday guys like me? Do you think?
I think it was just keeping me in the surf world,
Okay.
and like
Yeah.
relevant. And it was just, I know, Rob was doing that, and there was like Benji and there's a big crew of the same, Momentum era guys doing that.
Right.
So we're kind of traveling with the same guys we were on tour. And then once Shane pulled out and Rob, and then I'm like, hey, the band's still going, you know, let's go traveling, be a part of Taylor's films and make our own. And
With that being said, let's get into the music. How did you start playing instruments like guitar or so forth? What got you into music?
so my family, if you go to a Curran Thanksgiving, I mean, there's drums. We got like a PA system. I mean, it's like electric.
So rad.
It's sweet. So I grew up with a family that played music. My dad played guitar. He'd sing James Taylor and Neil Young songs, and so I grew up with the guitar around the house. And they never forced me, and they just always have it around, and I'd kind of mess around with it. But then I'd bring it on tour for downtime when we're sitting there,
Of
and
course.
bring a little guitar, and so I'd write music, and it took me probably, I don't know, it took me till I was 25 before I wrote a song that someone actually liked. And I wrote lots
Oh,
of
okay.
songs, but they'd be like, maybe you could have someone else sing that. I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, not so good. And then I wrote one song in Japan, and I came home, and I remember I played it for my wife and my brothers, and they're like, dude, that one's kind of all right. And I was like,
Cool.
what? So then I like locked myself in the bathroom and wrote like 100 more, and got a couple more that people liked. And then I showed Rob. So this is kind of how that all started. I showed Rob a song, and he's like, oh, cool. Well, you should send this to Randy over in Japan for a Surf Rider, Foundation compilation album. And
Okay,
so
cool.
Ben Harper on there and Jack, and sent the one song over to him, and they're like, yeah, it's on there. And I'm like, what? And I was
Wow.
so stoked to be on with, all these artists that I looked up to as well. And I wrote a little EP, and I was playing a couple little coffee shops around when I was around 25. And then that little EP got in the hands of Rick DeVoe. And then Rick DeVoe, it all happened so fast, got me opening for Switchfoot at the House of Blues.
Wow.
I'm
Rad.
like, you got to be kidding, from a coffee shop to sold out House of Blues for Switchfoot. And then
Rad.
within that year to Foo Fighters, and going on an 11 stop tour with Foo Fighters, I was like, what is going on? Like, from surfing to this, it wasn't what I like dreamed about. It was, I just want to write a couple songs. So it was it was a wild ride. It doesn't even feel real looking back. Like, what was that?
So I see a couple similarities in your surfing career and your music career. Is what you're saying is both of them happened pretty spontaneous. Like when that happened, it happened.
Yeah, for sure. And just blown away, and just like, you're off, and I'm like, oh, what? I don't really, just.
So a question to that is, does that put pressure on you? Does that take away from the fun, or are you able to enjoy it?
No, because it was both. Surfing, just the catapult into that, and catapult into music it was just so cool, nerve-wracking, but I'm like, I gotta do it, like,
Yeah.
I'm way more confident in surfing than music. Like, I actually don't like playing shows. I stress
No.
out for like a month
Super
before.
scary, I bet.
Yeah, I don't like talking in front of people. I hate being on stage. And so even now I get offers, and I'm like, I don't like playing live shows. I like writing music, but I stress out for a month that I'm going to mess up.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
Wow. That was my next question was like you're playing with the Foo Fighters. Like that's major. And there's a lot of people there, a lot of eyes.
sold out, and I remember when Rick DeVoe, he's like, hey, you're going to go out with Foo Fighters. I'm like, you have to be kidding me. And I'm like, I've only played in little coffee shops, and I don't even know how long I could play. And I was so afraid of opening up for him that I called my friends who are really good musicians. We practiced. I've never played with a drummer or an electric guitar.
Okay.
Before that, like I didn't even play at the Curran family parties before that. It was just like a couple songs. Then, so I called them. We practiced for 1 month, and then went out with the Foo Fighters as a threesome. And so, but they gave me a little backup. So if I messed up a little bit, when you got drums and electric guitar, kind of covers for you. So
Did that make it a little easier for you?
it did. It did.
Okay.
Playing with the band is, that definitely less stressful.
And today, do you still play with the band or do you go out solo?
I have a band, my friends, I have a couple different friends that can
Yeah.
sit and play with me if needed. So yeah, they're band of friends.
The band. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about like 4 albums out, right? And you got a relatively new one out.
I've released a couple solo acoustic songs, which is pretty neat now. There's a app, TuneCore, which, you can go on there and upload your song, and within 2 weeks, it's like distributed throughout the world. And
Wow.
so for the last couple years, I've just been like, oh, I'm going to go in the bathroom because it has the best acoustics, got a little echo in there.
Yeah.
Record it on my phone and I could upload it, and that it's out there. It's pretty cool. So it's been a little bit since I released a full length album, but I would like to start putting out some more solo acoustic songs because it's just easy. And like I said, I love writing songs. And so regardless if I play shows or not, I'll hope to be continuing to put out music.
The process of it, how does it make you feel? Like, does it relax you, or do you feel like you have to put out music?
Not at all. And
Not at all?
Since the very beginning, I signed with one label, my first album, after I released it by myself, just as a free download. But once I did that, I felt a lot of pressure. Like, you got to go tour and you got to, the next album. And after my first record, I said, from here on out, I'm going to just release them all independently. So there's no pressure. I mean, I only do it for fun, and I don't have big dreams of touring and all that. It's more, it's therapy for me. When I write songs, usually it's like I'm in a space where I'm like, I need to get this off my chest, or my surroundings. If I see someone going through some tough times, it's usually, I'm like, I guess more on the emo side of I don't know. I just feel for my surroundings, and I'll write about that and get it off my chest. And sometimes it'll hopefully connect with people going through the same stuff.
Yeah. I mean, listening to your album, it's all pretty mellow. It's like coffee shop setting is like the perfect place, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's good stuff though. It's relaxing.
Thank you very much.
Going back to the movie parts, how long did it take you to do like a section for the Taylor Steele, one of the, like, the Focus or whatever?
Focus, that's another thing. It was, I was at the Malloy's house, and Chris is like, hey, I got to introduce you to Taylor Steele.
Obviously you knew who he was at that point, right?
Oh yeah. I burned those momentums. Like, I mean, before every surf, I try to tell kids that want to be pros, I'm like, what I did before every surf for years and years and years is I would watch surf video and stretch watching the surf video to the favorite parts. If it was Kelly or Ross Williams or Shane or whoever, and just try to get the feelings, study it every single day. I'm watching a Momentum 1, Momentum 2. And so then Chris Malloy, like, oh, Taylor Steele's going to be in town. I want to introduce you. And I knew they were filming for Focus that whole year. And Taylor Steele, and I think I just did an alley-oop at Silverstrand, and Dan Malloy. And so Chris, Dan told Chris, and then Chris is like, well, hell, at least I'll introduce you to Taylor Steele. Maybe one day you'll try to film for one of his movies. And Taylor's like, yeah. He's like, what are you doing the next month and a half? And I'm like, nothing. And he's like, well, we're going to be filming in San Diego if you want to come down there and try to get a wave for the movie. And
so awesome.
I told my parents, I'm like, I'm moving to San Diego for a month. I'm out. And we filmed every day for like a month and a half. And that was my part in Focus. And I remember I did the alley-oop at Strand, and I could not do one till the day, it was the last day to film. I couldn't pull one off while we were filming. I was too much stress. And then at the very end, I was able to pull one off.
Surfing for you today, what does it mean for you today? Let's put everything else, your old past, your music, Does it mean more today than it did then, or the same, or
It's different today. Obviously,
yeah?
I have 11-year-old son Oliver and my daughter's 14, Lily. Lily surfs in the summertime. Ollie is obsessed with surfing. So
Okay.
the last couple years, he's been surfing since he was like 4 years old. He's a little animal. And I went from pushing him in waves to the last couple years. Now I get to watch him paddle into waves. And so I feel for me, I love surfing still if it's offshore and barrels, but if it's
Yeah.
onshore and head high, I'm not as good as I was back then. So I want to go out and be like, three to the beach, but not that good. So I really enjoy watching Oliver. I feel like it's like, this is the coolest thing to take him to the beach and his friends and watch them all surf, because then it takes me back to when I was his age. And I just have so much joy and love for the sport, but I'm good. I got my fill, and I'll always love surfing, but I love watching Ollie, and I do love getting out there when it's good.
Your son's, does he have any? Is he just a surfer? Is he surfing contests, or what's his take on surfing?
He's done a couple NSSAs and he loves them. And my parents didn't push me at all, like it was zero push. So I'm taking the same approach, with him, and I'm like, hey, we're gonna just do local NSSAs. We're not gonna travel yet. And he's funny. He'd be like, Dad, I want you to coach me more. I'm like, what? He's like, you're not coaching me enough. And I'm like, wow, this is opposite of me.
Yeah.
And so, or how I grew up. So it's fun. We'll see where he goes and take it slow. And I don't want him to get burnt out. So I want to hold him back just a little bit more so that he just has fun with it and doesn't get too overwhelmed too early on.
With that being said, what's your method of coaching your son?
I think, obviously I enjoy watching him surf, and I could kind of see. And what's really neat is my brother Nathaniel, who's obviously an amazing surfer,
Rips. Yeah.
very good. He's right there with him too. So we're both, talking to him, like, hey, spread your legs a little bit more, and when you do your turn, step back on the tail and little things. But he's definitely, what's really cool. He's way better than I was at 11. So that'll be fun to see, how he progresses.
Yes. But he has between you and your friends and your brother and everybody, he has access to some of the best surfers in the entire world ever to live. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we can answer any question he has for us. So,
Of course, that's kind of my point. Yeah. Well, your wife, what does she think about surfing? Obviously.
yeah, I mean, she loves surfing. She traveled with me for many, many years,
Okay.
and so she loves the contest. She misses all of our friends on tour, and with Ollie, she's just like, we need to do this, support him, and if he wants to do NSSAs, then let's get him going. And yeah, she's very
Right.
supportive. Loves the
Right
sport.
on. Are you guys traveling at all? Are you guys just pretty much surfing local?
Uh,
I mean,
local,
are you going like overseas or anything? Or are you staying
not
home and just
really. I
surfing?
think we've gone a couple times to BSR. We've been a couple times to Kelly's Wave up in Lemoore,
Yeah, I saw
and
it on Instagram.
yeah, and traveling. We went to Hawaii. Sorry, we kind of had a
Okay.
period where when I was really focused on starting our company, construction company, needed to be home. So there was kind of a big period where we weren't doing too much travel, but we just took the kids to Hawaii, which they love. They've been there a couple times. And so, yeah, as they grow up, it's kind of like, all right, where are we going where we can all go surf, which is
Yeah.
fun.
Are you guys like bombing at the Rincon when it's good, or I mean, I'm sure the waves are good there too, C Street and stuff.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time at Emma Wood because it's
I love them.
so
Yeah.
good for the kids. I mean, it's close to the beach. There's 1,000 waves. All their friends show up there, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great beach. So we're there. And, another great thing about Emma Wood is, Dane Reynolds is there.
That's what I was
Ace
gonna say. Yeah.
And so the kids get to watch the best surfers in the world surf right in front of them. So yeah, we spend a lot of time at Emmawood. And then for the last couple of years, which is pretty fun. Adventure, obviously, and traveling and trying to find spots when they're good. We've been on the adventure when it's huge to find that perfect waist high wave that's barely. We have a couple secret spots we go to when it's humongous, and it's fun being like, okay, Ollie, don't tell anyone about our spot. It's waist high and barreling. It's just you out,
Yeah.
your buddy. So
Wow.
fun.
I can take some guesses, but I won't. There's probably a few up there.
Yeah.
Who are some of the guys coming up in your area? Eton and
Aton and Mickey, and there's Josiah, Amico up here. There's a good crew, and then there's it's exploding. There's this crew of like 12-year-olds from Santa Barbara, 14 where you're like, there's so many good surfers. I don't know who's who, so it's great. I think the next 10 years there's going to be a lot of amazing surfers coming out of Santa Barbara and Ventura and the whole coast, as you know.
Right. Yeah. The kids, the level was so high. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What do you think of pro surfing today? Do you watch it?
I watched a little bit, and I'll go back and watch some of the contests. I love the big wave events. Obviously, it's like those are just crazy. I'm not a big wave surfer. I get to my limit, and then that's like a different sport for me. So those guys are all just madmen, and it's just I love watching them. When those are on, I'll sit in my house all day long, or at the office, and just be like,
oh, wow.
We do watch a lot of the events because Ollie loves watching surfing. So, past events, he'll be on YouTube watching Gabriel's surf against John or, whatever. So,
does he have a favorite surfer?
Yes. You know who his favorite surfer is?
Let's find out.
Bobby Martinez.
Really? Okay.
Ollie's a regular foot, and he loves Bobby Martinez.
Does he surf side by side with him, like at Rincon or something? Does he see him out?
No, that's one thing. He's like, Dad, am I ever going to meet Bobby Martinez? And Bobby, such good friends, And so I'm like, well, eventually you will. We just got to run into him.
Oh, that's funny. Right on. Well, it seems like everything's going great. What's anything coming up in the near future that we should know about?
Ollie's got an NSSA, and I think next weekend, which is big. And then for me,
living your life,
events, that I'll do sometimes, and just enjoying being a dad and I don't know, thankful
surf dad, and just very thankful for the life I've been blessed with. Right on. And then musically wise, you got any shows or anything coming up, or
no shows? But I hope to put out some more music in the coming year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know you can find your music on Spotify and Apple, and it's all readily there. So it's pretty rad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's neat.
And what do you think of the music industry?
I don't follow the music industry. I think it's a great time to be a musician because,
is it?
You record a song, you could do it on your computer, your phone, and blast it out, and then it's out. And see if people relate to it or like it. And it's like so simple. And
yeah.
Well,
Tim Curran, I so appreciate you coming on. There's probably a million other questions I have for you, but this has been I'm stoked. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. Happy to be here.
Right on. So everybody, this is Mike and Tim Curran, and we're out of here. All right. Bye.
Bye.
No one
Hey, you guys, Endless Summer box set. This thing is legit. It's authentic, numbered certificate in it. It has a 5-frame film strip from the original print. You will literally own a piece of history. It has a specially minted bronze medallion. Dude, that thing's sick. Okay, there's so much more here. Go to the show notes. There's a link on there. Go check this piece of history out. This thing's rad. Seriously. Smithsonian American History Museum has it. It took 4 years of research with 3.5 in production, all hand assembled. This thing's rad. So much to this awesome box set. Remastered DVD, sharper images than the original film, but dude, this thing's so sick. Link in the show notes.